Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get right into it. What is it about the dark that's so scary? I mean, in countless sci-fi works, we have stories of armies or creatures of darkness coming to conquer all of the world, cover all the existence in a never-ending hell and pitiful age of despair and decay. I mean, there's literally a kind of a spoof movie called Army of Darkness. It was pretty great. I highly recommend everybody go watch it. It's hilarious. It's awesome. Now, we have from Lovecraftian horror of the deep, dark oceans to beings like Ungoliant in Tolkien's mythos. Monsters and madmen that are born from the darkest regions of the void that tend to instill the most fear in us and cause us to wither in terror. So much so that 99% of the time in any movie, show, game, or novel, we make an enemy of the dark. Whether it's an ethereal or a corporeal foe. But why? Why do we encapsulate? Why do we embody darkness and then make it our enemy? Well, let's start with a general psychological explanation to get us on the right track. So firstly, the dark, or lack of light, it impedes our ability to see, right? It obstructs, well, it doesn't obstruct per se, but it keeps us from seeing what's in front of us or what is around us, which can increase our anxieties and make us uncertain about what actions to take. Now, because of our natural affinity for not being in pain or discomforted or inconvenienced or just wanting to know where the hell we're going, we would not want to wander around a pitch black room full of furniture or breakable objects. You know, we could stub our poor little toes, right? We could run into things. We could cause great amount of pain and discomfort. Now, this would be completely compounded by our anxiety of anticipating something happening in the dark, right? How slowly do you move around in a pitch black room where you can't see a thing? Now, you know there's stuff in there that you can knock into and make it fall, make it break. You could step on a dog, right? You might kick a baby. You don't want to move around in a pitch black room. Now, this creates an automatic conditional response in us. Fear the dark because it hides potential dangers that will hurt us, and we won't even know what is hurting us when it does. A great example would be if you walked into that pitch black room and you step on a pile of Legos. Now, I don't know if you grew up with Legos like me, or if you currently have a kid that's playing with Legos, but if you have, then you know exactly the kind of pain that I'm talking about here. It is a pain that is both sharp and dull, and it is long-lasting. If you step on a pile of Legos, you're done for the day. Those things hurt. So, from then on, naturally, your first go-to instinct when you enter that room will be to turn the lights on so you can avoid potential harm by way of Lego. So, we can take that instance that imagined pain and then apply it to any other scenario, right? It's a plug-and-play scenario. We don't see the danger. We don't even know it's there. And then bam, instant excruciating pain. Okay, now let's switch gears a little bit and think in terms of our storytelling. What makes the various embodiments of darkness such an easy go-to element for our antagonist or villain, or collection of villains, let's say? I mean, we have unfeeling space aliens, we have orcs and demons, mutated creatures, abominable horrors, eldritch monsters, all making great casts of horrendous villains that our cadre of main characters must weather and defeat, or else their world, their nation, their society, it will all be engulfed in evil forevermore. Now, this is the tune to which most great literature plays, especially more modern literature, spanning from the beginning of the 20th century to today. And it's a cross-cultural element that can be found in stories all over the world. The dark is coming for us, and in it lies uncertainty, danger, pain, and ultimately death, and we must combat it. This makes me think of the poem written by Dylan Thomas, Do Not Go Gentle. Now, in it, Thomas is constantly reiterating to, quote-unquote, rage against the dying of the light, where he is telling his dying father to fight against death, and really telling us all to fight against death with every fiber of strength that we have. But consider just how he chooses to tell us. He tells us to rage against the dying of the light. Well, what happens when the light dies? There's dark. Why should we rage against darkness and death? In Thomas's case, it would be for the sake of loved ones, not wanting to live without them, or just not let them go yet. So that's something that we see echoed in classic and modern literature. Lord of the Rings, H.P. Lovecraft stories. Although with Lovecraft it's all kind of futile anyway, but Thomas would tell us to do it anyway. We see it in comic books, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter even. We doom ourselves to oblivion if we don't fight back against the darkness. We won't even have any remembrance. No one left to keep us alive in spirit. No marks in history. No works of our own to live on and keep a part of us alive with future generations in some small fashion. No Dylan Thomas. And the darkness will tear it all down. It'll burn it to ash and suffocate us into a horrific death, racked by helplessness and weakness. And in all of those stories, this is the kind of death we are fighting against. Also, I say we because whoever the good guys are, they're more often than not who we, the audience, are associating ourselves with as we travel along the journey of the story. And it's usually from their perspective that the stories are more often told. We don't get Star Wars from the Emperor's perspective. We don't get Lord of the Rings from Sauron's perspective. How neat would it be to watch Doctor Who through, say, a Cyberman's perspective? That'd be kind of crazy. So, darkness is not only a signifier of loss of light, loss of life, the coming of pain and death. The eventuality of it is a warning to us of what will precede it as well, what comes before the dark. It's not as if darkness just appears out of nowhere all of a sudden. There are events leading up to its arrival. And the more we can do to delay those events, to survive a little longer, to push forward as hard as we can so that those behind us can continue once we're spent, the darkness will be delayed indefinitely if we are at all successful in succession of one another. Imagine a door that's being violently knocked against by something on the other side of you. Now, your initial response, your instinct is fear and apprehension of what might be on the other side, right? Because it's forceful, it's aggressive, it's loud. Now, in the next second, when the bashings rain against the door, you know that if the door isn't braced and supported, that it will splinter and burst wide open, allowing whatever aggressive force is strong enough to break down a door to now be a threat to you instead. So, you run up to support the door, you throw your body weight in support of it, you maybe grasp onto the frame to keep yourself anchored, you dig your feet in, and you lower your center of gravity. You're doing all you can to keep this door held firm. Now, this halts the violent pounding from its wanton destruction, and now you're safe. The only thing is, the door still gets pounded on intermittently. Now, if you're away from it for too long, you know the door will break down, and all manner of harm may befall you. So, you continue to support it. You rage against the door's dying light, all out of instinct of self-preservation. So, there's also an element of the unknown that lies in the dark. You have no idea what's going to happen, what to expect, what to prepare for. And to be fair, some good things might be lying in the dark. But if I can't see that there's a giant bowl of pudding in front of me, I'm going to be really concerned with what I am touching if I have no idea that it's pudding. And my instinct is not going to be to taste whatever the mushy substance is in front of me that I'm touching. It's going to be to wipe my hand off and back away slowly and hope I didn't just do something really gross or disgusting. It's not going to be, oh, I know what this is. It's going to be kind of revulsion. So the dark also keeps things that could be potentially good for us hidden. So why should we be frightened in the first place? Why should we fear the dark in the first place? Why should we be afraid of unexpected pain or discomfort? I mean, a meteor could be rampaging full clip straight at my head from deep space. Should I fear that as well? The thousands of tiny viruses that inhabit our bodies on a yearly basis, they could just one day develop a modicum of sapience and start acting in ways that our bodies can't fight. This allows them to completely take us over forever, and they turn us into hosts for a hive mind viral parasite. Are you going to be afraid of that? I mean, there are uncountable hypotheticals that could all result in death or harm. and they would happen naturally. There's nothing we could do about them. An earthquake could just crack open the crust of the earth, swallow everybody in it. There's nothing you could do. You can't fight nature. You can't fight the universe, eventuality. I mean, just like walking into that pitch black room, we have no idea what will happen in life. There are too many variables. So why aren't we afraid of absolutely everything all the time? I mean, it's just like the darkness. Well, I think that there's a little bit of learning to do here that goes against our very nature as human beings. Just like in Lord of the Rings, and Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, hell, Harry Potter. The darkness must be confronted and defeated, and we must learn to walk in the uncertainty of life, so that when our strength is spent, we can walk assuredly in the forever of the dark that awaits us. Not to get too spiritual here, but I think that's a great way to sum up a ton of religions in a really roundabout way. But really, what better way to dash our fears and quiet our anxieties when faced with the dark? If we learn to cope, deal with, and overcome all of what life throws at us while we're still based in the light, although some of us are a bit more shaded than others, then anything that the dark has to throw our way will be dealt with just as easy. But how? How can we start this learning process that defies our human instinct, our survival mechanisms? Well, I think there's a number of paths. Although it's unbelievably easy to have our progress down any of these paths halted, or maybe we veer off the path entirely. But personally, I think that disciplined physical and mental exercise is definitely a great way to become ready to conquer the dark. I think that most people find one path to follow is being steadfast in their religious beliefs. Maybe their path is selfless service to others. Maybe it's doing something that's really time-consuming and seemingly rewardless at first, like being an author or running your own podcast. All these things are incredibly hard to do, much less being able to do them very well and consistently. But if we each find whatever our path might be and really stick to it, I think we can find ourselves facing down life's uncertainties with a much calmer heartbeat and a far softer breath. And then, and only then, a Jedi will you be. But that is all I have time for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stick around for more Sci-Fi Unchained. But for now, live long and prosper, my friends, and may the Force be with us all.